Mystery.
The Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, featuring John Patrick Lowry as Holmes and Lawrence Albert as Dr. Watson. Tonight, The Adventure of the Speckled Band.
On glancing over my notes of the 70-odd cases in which I have studied the methods of my friend Sherlock Holmes, I cannot recall any which presented more singular features than that which was associated with the Roylotts of Stoke Moran. It was only in April in the year 83 that I woke one morning to find Sherlock Holmes standing fully dressed by the side of my bed.
I'm very sorry to disturb you, Watson, but it's the common lot this morning. Miss Hudson has been woken up. She retorted upon me, and I on you.
What is it, a fire?
No, a client. It seems a young lady has arrived in a considerable state of excitement and insists upon seeing us. She's waiting now in the sitting room. Now, when young ladies wander about the metropolis at this hour of the morning, I presume they have something very pressing to communicate. Should it prove to be an interesting case, I'm sure you'd wish to follow it from the outset. I thought at any rate I should give you the chance.
My dear fellow, I wouldn't miss it for anything.
Good morning, madam. My name is Sherlock Holmes. This is my friend and associate, Dr. Watson, before whom you can speak as freely as before myself.
I'm glad to see Mrs. Hudson has had the good sense to light the fire. Oh, please, draw up to it, and I'll order you a cup of hot coffee. I observe you're shivering.
It is not cold which makes me shiver, Doctor.
You must not fear. We'll soon set matters right, I have no doubt. You've come in by the train this morning, I see.
You know me, then?
No, but I observed the second half of the return ticket in the palm of your left glove. You must have started early, and yet you had a good drive along heavy roads before you reached the station. You must find a dog-cart a cold conveyance in this weather.
A dog-cart, Mr. Holmes?
There's no mystery, my dear madam. One can hardly fail to observe that the left arm of your jacket is spattered with fresh mud in no less than 7 places. There is no vehicle save a dog-cart which throws up mud in that way, and then only when you sit on the left-hand side of the driver.
Whatever your reasons may be, you are perfectly correct. I started from home before 6, reached Leatherhead at 20 past, and came in by the first train to Waterloo. Oh, sir, I can stand the strain no longer. I shall go mad if it continues. I've no one to turn to. I've heard of you, Mr. Holmes, from Mrs. Farintosh, whom you helped in the hour of her sore need.
Mrs. Farintosh, I don't think
Yes, I recall the case. It concerned an opal tiara, before your time, Watson.
Do you not think you could throw a little light through the darkness which surrounds me?
I can only say, miss, that I shall be happy to devote the same care to your case as I did to that of your friend.
At present it is out of my power to reward you for your services, but in a month or 6 weeks I shall be married, with the control of my own income, and then at least you shall not find me ungrateful.
My profession is its own reward, but you're at liberty to defray whatever expenses I may be put to.
At a time which suits you best, that is.
Now, miss, please lay before us everything that may help us in forming an opinion upon the matter.
The very horror of my situation lies in the fact that my fears are so vague, and my suspicions depend so entirely upon small points, which may seem trivial to another, that even he to whom I have a right to look for help considers it the fancies of a nervous woman. But I've heard, Mr. Holmes, that you can see deeply into the manifold of wickedness of the human heart. You may advise me how to walk amid the dangers which encompass me.
I am all attention, madam.
My name is Helen Stoner. I live with my stepfather, who is the last survivor of one of the oldest Saxon families in England, the Roylotts of Stoke Moran, on the west border of Surrey.
The name's familiar to me, Holmes. The Roylotts were among the richest families in England. At one time, the estates extended over into Berkshire and Hampshire.
Nothing is left now to save a few acres of ground and the 200-year-old house. My stepfather obtained an advance from a relative, which enabled him to take a medical degree, and he went out to Calcutta, where he established a large practice. In a fit of anger, however, he beat his native butler to death, and narrowly escaped a capital sentence.
Dear me, a gentleman of singular and most interesting personality.
Oh, that was why he returned to England a morose and disappointed man. When Dr. Roylott was in India, he married my mother, the young widow of Major General Stoner, of the Bengal Artillery. My sister Julie and I were twins, only 2 years old at the time of my mother's remarriage. She had a considerable sum of money, no less than £1,000 a year, and this she bequeathed to the doctor entirely, while we resided with him, with a provision that a certain annual sum should be allowed to each of us in the event of our marriage. Shortly after our return to England, my mother died. She was killed 8 years ago in a railway accident near Crewe.
My condolences, Miss Stoner.
Dr. Roylott was forced to abandon his attempts to establish himself in practice in London.
No doubt the incident in Calcutta cost him his license.
He took us to live with him in the old ancestral house at Stoke Moran, but a terrible change came over our stepfather about this time. Instead of making friends and exchanging visits with our neighbours, he shut himself up in his house, and seldom came out save to indulge in ferocious quarrels with whoever might cross his path. A series of disgraceful brawls took place, 2 of which ended in the police court, until at last he became the terror of the village, and the folk would fly at his approach, for he is a man of immense strength, and absolutely uncontrollable in his anger. Last week he hurled the local blacksmith over a parapet into a stream, and it was only by paying over all the money I could gather together that I was able to avert another public exposure. He has no friends at all save the wandering gypsies, and he gives these vagabonds leave to encamp upon the few acres of bramble-covered land which represent the family estate. He has a passion also for Indian animals, and he has at this moment a cheetah and a baboon, which wander freely over his grounds. You can imagine that my poor sister Julie and I had no great pleasure in our lives. She was but 30, and yet her hair had already begun to whiten, even as mine has.
Your sister is dead, then?
She died just 2 years ago, and it is of her death that I wish to speak to you. You can understand that living the life I've described, we were little likely to see anyone of our own age and position. We had, however, an aunt, Miss Honoria Westfall, and we were occasionally allowed to pay short visits at this lady's house in Harrow. Julie went there at Christmas 2 years ago and met a half-pay major of Marines, to whom she became engaged. My stepfather offered no objection to the marriage, but within a fortnight of the day which had been fixed for the wedding, the terrible event occurred which has deprived me of my only companion.
Pray, be precise as to details.
It is easy for me to be so, Mr. Holmes. Every event of that dreadful time is seared into my memory. The manor house is very old, and only one wing is inhabited. The bedrooms are on the ground floor, the first being Dr. Roylott's, the second my sister's, and the third my own. There is no communication between them, but they all open out into the same corridor. Do I make myself plain?
Perfectly so, Miss Stoner.
The windows of the 3 rooms open out upon the lawn. That fatal night, Dr. Roylott had gone to his room early, though we knew he'd not retired to rest, for my sister was troubled by the smell of the strong Indian cigars. She left her room, therefore, and came into mine, where she sat for some time, chatting about her approaching wedding. Tell me, Helen, have you ever heard anyone whistle in the dead of the night? A whistle? Never. I suppose you couldn't possibly whistle in your sleep? Certainly not. But why, Julia? During the last few nights, I've always, about 3 in the morning, heard a low, clear whistle. I'm a light sleeper, and it's awakened me. I can't tell where it came from. I thought I'd just ask you whether you'd heard it. Must be those wretched gypsies in the plantation. Very likely. And yet I wonder you didn't hear it also. But I sleep more heavily than you. Well, it's of no great consequence at any rate. Good night, Helen. She left my bedroom at 11 o'clock, and a few moments later I heard her key turn in the lock.
Was it your custom always to lock yourselves in at night?
Always.
Why?
As I mentioned, the doctor keeps a cheetah and a baboon. We had no feeling of security unless our doors were locked.
Quite so. Pray, proceed with your statement.
I could not sleep that night. A vague feeling of impending misfortune impressed me. My sister and I were twins, and you know how subtle are the links which bind 2 souls so closely allied. It was a wild night. The wind was howling outside, and the rain was beating and splashing against the windows. Suddenly, amid all the hubbub of the gale, I knew it was my sister's voice, I sprang from my bed, wrapped a shawl round me, and rushed into the corridor. Julia's door was unlocked, and revolved slowly upon its hinges. By the light of the corridor lamp, I saw my sister appear at the opening, her hands groping for help. Her face was convulsed with terror.
Helen! Ah! Oh, my God! Helen! It was the band! The speckled band! Ah!
Your sister is dead, my dear.
Then I fainted myself, and I knew no more.
And when you came to yourself?
I'd been carried back to my bed by my stepfather.
These are very deep waters.
Was your sister dressed, Miss Stoner?
No, she was in her nightdress. In her right hand was found the charred stump of a match, and in her left hand a matchbox.
Showing that she had struck a light and looked about her when the alarm took place. That is important. What light was in the passage?
A lamp against the wall.
You could distinctly see your sister.
Oh, yes.
And what conclusion did the county coroner come to?
He investigated the case with great care, for Dr. Roylott's conduct had long been notorious in the county, but he was unable to find any satisfactory cause of death. My evidence showed that the window had been fastened upon the inner side, and the windows were blocked by old-fashioned shutters with broad iron bars, which were secured every night.
The walls were quite solid?
Yes, they were carefully sounded. The flooring was also thoroughly examined with the same result.
Ah, the chimney.
It's wide, Doctor, but barred up by 4 large staples.
It's certain, then, that your sister was quite alone when she met her end.
And yet, it was my strong impression that I heard a low whistle, such as my sister described, and a few moments later a clanging sound, as if a mass of metal had fallen.
Could you swear to it?
That was what the coroner, Mr. Longbrace, asked me, among the crash of the gale and the creaking of an old house. I may possibly have been deceived. I cannot say more. I was myself almost as terrified as she.
There were no marks of any violence upon your sister?
No actual physical lesion was discovered by the doctors.
How about poison?
The doctors examined her for it, without success.
What do you think this unfortunate lady died of, then?
It's my belief, Mr. Holmes, that Julia died of pure fear and nervous shock.
And what did you gather from this allusion to a band, a speckled band?
Sometimes I've thought it was merely the wild talk of delirium. Sometimes that it may have referred to some band of people.
Perhaps the gypsies, Holmes. The spotted handkerchiefs so many of them wear on their heads might have suggested that strange adjective.
Perhaps. Go on with your narrative, Miss Stoner.
2 years have passed since then, and my life has been until lately lonelier than ever. A month ago, however, Percy Armitage, a dear friend, whom I've known for many years, has done me the honour to ask my hand in marriage.
My congratulations.
And did your stepfather offer any opposition to this match?
No, Mr. Holmes. In fact, he's been much kinder, because he knows I have one to protect me. Percy and I are to be married in the spring. But 2 days ago, some repairs were started in the west wing of the building, and my bedroom wall has been pierced. So I've had to move into the chamber in which my sister died, and to sleep in the very bed in which she slept.
Good Lord.
You sleep with your door and window fastened?
Yes, but so did poor Julia. Didn't save her, and it may not save me.
Could there be anything in the nature of secret doors or panels?
I searched again and again. There's nothing.
Nothing peculiar in the room?
No, but... Imagine my thrill of terror when last night, as I lay awake thinking over Julia's terrible fate, I suddenly heard, in the silence of the night, the low whistle which had been the herald of her own death. Oh, Mr. Holmes, I'm terrified.
You've had enough to break anyone's nerve, Miss Stoner.
This whistling, does it seem to be inside the house or outside?
I couldn't say.
What is it like?
A sort of soft droning sound.
Like a flute or pipe?
Yes, it reminded me of my childhood in India.
Continue, Miss Stoner. What did you do when you heard it?
I sprang up and lit the lamp, but nothing was to be seen in the room. I was too shaken to go to bed again, so I dressed, and as soon as it was daylight I slipped out, got a dog cart at the Crown Inn, and drove to Leatherhead, from whence I've come this morning with the one object of seeing you and asking your advice.
And you have done wisely. But have you told me all?
Yes, all.
Miss Stoner, you are screening your stepfather.
What do you mean?
Those livid spots printed upon your wrist, the marks of 4 fingers and a thumb.
You've been cruelly used.
He's a hard man, Dr. Watson, and perhaps he hardly knows his own strength. When he's angry, he's like a fierce, wild beast.
Does your fiancé know of this?
I won't dare tell him. He'd do something dreadful. Besides, as I say, my stepfather, on the whole, has been kinder. But there's a look in his eyes when I turn on him suddenly that chills me to the bone. His kindness is from his head, not from his heart. I feel as if he were waiting.
Waiting for what?
Until he has me at his mercy. That room freezes my blood. Often I can't sleep for horror.
There are 1,000 details I should desire to know before I decide upon our course of action.
Surely we haven't a moment to lose, Holmes.
Of course you're right, Watson. Miss Stoner, we'll take up your case. It presents features which commend it to me. You must put yourself into my hands.
I do, unreservedly.
If we were to come to Stoke Moran today, would it be possible for us to see over these rooms without the knowledge of your stepfather?
As it happens, he spoke of coming into town today upon some important business. It's probable that he'll be away all day, and nothing would disturb you. We have a housekeeper now, but she's old and foolish. I could easily get her out of the way.
Excellent.
But it's not safe. You can't think of the danger.
We've taken up your case, Miss Stoner, and this is part of it.
I take it you're not averse to this trip, Watson?
By no means.
Then we shall both come. What are you going to do yourself?
I have 1 or 2 things I would wish to do now I'm in town. I'll return by the 12 o'clock train, so as to be there in time for your coming.
You may expect us early in the afternoon. I have myself some small business matters to attend to. Will you not wait and breakfast?
Oh, no, I must go. My heart is lightened already since I've confided my troubles to you, Mr. Holmes.
Should any new development occur, you could always send me a telegram, could you not?
Yes, I could do that.
Then it is not goodbye, but au revoir, Miss Stoner. What do you think of it all, Watson?
It seems to me to be a most dark and sinister business.
Dark enough and sinister enough.
I wonder whether we're justified in letting Miss Stoner return at all to Stoke Moran. If she's correct in saying that the flooring and walls are all sound and that the door, window, and chimney are impassable, then her sister Julia must have been undoubtedly alone when she met her mysterious end.
What becomes, then, of these nocturnal whistles? And what of the very peculiar words of the dying woman? It was the band, the speckled band.
I can't think, Holmes.
When you combine the ideas of whistles at night, the presence of a band of gypsies who are on intimate terms with Dr. Roylott, the fact that we have every reason to believe he has an interest in preventing his stepdaughter's marriage, the dying allusion to a band, and finally the fact that Miss Helen Stoner heard a metallic clang, which might have been caused by one of the metal bars that secured the shutters falling back into place. I think there's good ground to think the mystery may be cleared along those lines.
What did the gypsies do?
I cannot imagine.
I don't know, Holmes. I see many objections to any such theory.
So do I, Watson, and it's precisely for that reason that we're going to Stoke Moran this day. I want to see whether the objections are fatal, or if they may be explained away.
Which of you is Holmes?
What in the name of the devil?
My name, sir?
I have reason to think you've taken unsolicited interest in my affairs.
Your name being?
I am Dr. Grimsby Roylott of Stoke Moran.
A pretty place, I hear, and obviously good for the lungs. Pray, take a seat, Dr. Roylott.
I will do nothing of the kind. You are trifling with me. My stepdaughter has been here. I have traced her. What has she been saying to you?
The first law in my profession, Doctor, is never to answer questions.
Sir, you shall answer to me.
It's a little cold for this time of year.
What has she been saying to you?
I have heard that crocuses promise well.
Ha! You put me off, do you? I know you, you scoundrel. I have heard of you before. You are Holmes the meddler, Holmes the busybody, Holmes the Scotland Yard Jack in office.
Your conversation is most entertaining, sir.
What do you mean by interfering with my lawful affairs?
So long as they are lawful, Dr. Roylott, no one is likely to interfere with them.
Now, look here, gentlemen. Perhaps I may seem to you a little hot-headed.
Oh, dear me, what put that idea into your head?
I apologize if I've been rude.
A trifle robust, nothing more.
I wish to put the matter to you as man to man. You know what girls are, how sudden and unreasonable their prejudices may be. Imagine, sir, how hurt I should feel to be distrusted by one whom I've loved.
You are a most unfortunate man, Dr. Roylott. There was that tragedy 2 years ago.
Yes, indeed.
I think we could help you in that matter.
How so?
Watson and I are very busy, but we're prepared to put everything aside to assist you.
In what way, sir?
We'll come down at once, examine the room in which the tragedy occurred, and see if such small faculties as we possess can throw any light upon the matter.
Sir, this is an intolerable liberty.
You don't want our help?
It is intolerable, I say. What I ask you to do, what I order you to do, is to leave my affairs alone. Alone, sir. Do you hear me?
You are perfectly audible.
I'll have no interference. None. Don't dare to meddle with me. Do you hear? The pair of you. You, Holmes, I'm warning you.
I fear I must end this interview. Life has its duties as well as its pleasures, Doctor.
Insolent rascal! Don't you dare to meddle with my affairs. I'm a dangerous man to fall foul of. See here.
The fire does need poking, but perhaps you'd put on a few coals first.
You don't know the man you're dealing with. You think my strength fails because my hair is turned? I was the strongest man in India once. Keep yourself out of my grip, or I'll twist you like I twist your poker. See that? I'm not a safe man to play with, Holmes. You shall not overcrow me with your insolence. I tell you now, and you too, Dr. Watson, that you interfere with my affairs to your own danger. You have been warned.
And we shall make a note of it.
You refuse to tell me if Miss Stoner has been here?
Don't we seem to be travelling just a little in a circle?
Well, you can't prevent me from finding out from her.
There I must talk a little seriously to you, Grimsley Roylott. You have mentioned this young lady, and I know something of her circumstances. My eye is on you, sir, and the Lord help you if any harm befall her. Now leave this room and take my warning with you.
You cursed fool! I may teach you both not to meddle with what doesn't concern you. Keep clear of Stoke Moran.
Kindly close the door when you go out. There's a decided draught. You know, Watson, I had a presentiment that he'd slam the door.
He seems a very amiable person.
Yes, I'm not quite so bulky, but if he'd remained, I might have shown him that my grip isn't much more feeble than his own. There, straight again. Fancy his having the insolence to confuse me with the official detective force. This incident gives zest to our investigation.
I only trust that Miss Stoner won't suffer from her imprudence in allowing that brute to trace her. Now Dr. Roylott's aware that we're interesting ourselves in his affair. This is too serious for dawdling.
Which is why I intend to visit Doctors' Commons, where I hope to get some data which may help us in this matter, and then a cab drive to Waterloo. What the exact danger may be which destroyed one sister and now threatens the other may be suspected, but cannot yet be defined. That's why I must see the room.
If you don't mind, Holmes, I think I'll slip my revolver into my pocket.
I should be very much obliged if you would. And Ely's number 2 is an excellent argument with gentlemen who can twist steel pokers into knots. That and a toothbrush are all we need, I think. I have seen the will of the deceased wife. To determine the exact meaning, I was obliged to work out the present prices of the investments with which it's concerned. The total income, which at the time of the wife's death was little short of £1,100, is now, through the fall in agricultural prices, not more than £750. Each daughter can claim an income of £250 in case of marriage.
Then if both girls had married, this beauty, Dr. Grimsby Roylott, would have had a mere pittance. Even one marriage would cripple him to a very serious extent.
My morning's work hasn't been wasted, you see. It proves Roylott has the very strongest motives for standing in the way of anything of the sort.
Of course, supposing he did the other girl to death, it seems unlikely, on the face of it, that he'd try again so soon. I mean, 2 sudden deaths in the same house could hardly pass the coroner.
No, Watson, no. You're making the mistake of putting your normal rein into Roylott's abnormal being. The born criminal is often a monstrous egotist. His mind is unhinged from the beginning. What he wants, he must have. Because he thinks a thing, it is right. Because he does a thing, it will escape detection.
I'm relieved to see you were as good as your word, gentlemen.
Miss Stoner?
I've been waiting so eagerly for you. All has turned out splendidly. Dr. Roylott has gone to town, and it's unlikely he'll be back before evening.
Yes, we've had the pleasure of making the doctor's acquaintance.
Good heavens. He followed me.
So it appears.
He's so cunning I never know when I'm safe from him. What will he say when he returns?
He must guard himself, for he may find there's someone more cunning than himself upon his track.
You must lock yourself up from him tonight, Miss Stoner. If he's violent, we'll take you away to your aunt's home at Harrow.
Now, we must make the best use of our time. Over there, I take it, is the room in which you used to sleep, the central room being your sister's, and the one next to that, Dr. Roylott's chamber.
Exactly so. But I'm now sleeping in the middle one.
Pending the alterations, as I understand.
By the way, there doesn't seem to be any very pressing need for repairs at that end wall.
There were none, Dr. Watson.
Now, on the other side of this narrow wing runs the corridor from which these 3 rooms open. There are windows in it, of course?
Yes, but very small ones. Too narrow for anyone to pass through.
And as you both locked your doors at night, your rooms were unapproachable from that side.
We shall see if the inside throws any light upon the matter. Miss Stoner, kindly lead the way. So, this is the famous room, is it? Dear me, very much as I'd pictured it. Very quaint indeed, old-fashioned comfort without modern luxury.
But a gloomy atmosphere for a young girl, Holmes.
Miss Stoner, would you have the kindness to bar your shutters?
Of course.
Thank you. Now, if I may... No slit through which a knife could be passed to raise the bar. The hinges appear to be of solid iron, built firmly into the masonry.
Your theory certainly presents some difficulties, Holmes. No one could pass these shutters if they were bolted.
With your leave, Miss Stoner, I'll inspect the room a little more closely. I'm interested in this partition wall. No little surprises, I suppose. No trapdoors and sliding panels. Funny folk, our ancestors, with a quaint taste in practical joking. No, it seems solid enough. Dear me. And yet you say your sister fastened both door and window. Remarkable.
My dear young lady, I can see you're frightened to death, and no wonder. Your courage so far has been admirable.
I fear I'm a weak, cowardly creature, Doctor, unfit to meet the shocks of life. It's all like some horrible nightmare.
I think you've been splendidly brave.
Perfectly respectable wall. In fact, a commonplace wall. Trapdoor in the floor. No. Nothing suspicious in that direction. Ancient carpeting, oak wainscot. I see you have a bell rope by your bed. Where does the bell communicate with?
It goes to the housekeeper's room.
It looks newer than the other things.
Yes, it was only put there a couple of years ago.
Your sister asked for it, I suppose?
No, Doctor. I've never heard of her using it. We used always to get what we wanted for ourselves.
Very interesting. Most interesting and instructive. You'll excuse me if I satisfy myself as its effectiveness by giving the rope a brisk hug.
I don't hear any bell, Holmes.
It's not likely you should, Watson. Look.
It's a dummy. It's not even attached to a wire.
How very absurd. I never noticed that before.
It's fastened to a hook just above the little opening for the ventilator.
That is also quite modern.
Done about the same time as the bell rope?
Yes, there were several little changes carried out about that time.
They seem to have been of a most interesting character.
Quite a burst of activity, apparently.
Yes. There are 1 or 2 very singular points about this room. Most original man, the architect. With your permission, Miss Stoner, we shall now carry our researches into the inner apartment.
Dr. Grimsby Roylott's chamber was larger than that of his stepdaughter, but is plainly furnished. A camp bed, small wooden shelf full of books, mostly of a technical character, an armchair beside the bed, a plain wooden chair against the wall, a table, and a large iron safe with the principal things which met the eye.
What's in here?
The safe? Just my stepfather's business papers.
You've seen inside, then?
Only once, some years ago. I remember it was full of papers.
There isn't a cat in it, for example.
A cat?
Oh, it's a strange idea, Mr. Holmes.
And yet this saucer of milk stands on top of it.
We don't keep a cat. But there is a cheetah and a baboon.
Well, a cheetah is just a big cat, I suppose.
Yeah, the saucer of milk won't go very far at satisfying its wants, I dare say.
Hello. Here's something interesting.
It appears to be a small dog lash.
But curled upon itself and tied so as to make a loop of whipcord. What do you make of that, Watson?
Well, it's a common enough lash, but I don't know why it should be tied.
That's not quite so common, is it? Ah, me. It's a wicked world, and when a clever man turns his brain to crime, it's the worst of all. Miss Stoner, it is essential that you should absolutely follow my advice in every respect.
I shall most certainly do so, Mr. Holmes.
The matter is too serious for any hesitation. Your life may depend upon your compliance.
I assure you, I am in your hands.
In the first place, both my friend and I must spend the night in your room.
I say, Holmes.
Dear,
It must be so. Let me explain. I believe that is the village inn over there.
The Crown, yes,
Your windows would be visible from there.
certainly.
When your stepfather returns, you must confine yourself to your room, on pretense of headache. Then, when you hear him retire for the night, you must open the shutters of your window, undo the hasp, put your lamp there as a signal to us, and then withdraw quietly into the room you used to occupy. I have no doubt that, in spite of the repairs, you could manage there for one night.
Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes, easily.
The rest you will leave in our hands.
What will you do?
Watson and I will investigate the cause of this noise which has disturbed you.
I believe you've already made up your mind, Holmes.
Perhaps I have.
Oh, then, for pity's sake, tell me. What was the cause of my sister's death?
I should prefer to have clearer proofs before I speak.
You can at least tell me whether my own thought is correct, if she died from some sudden fright.
No. I think that there was probably some more tangible cause. And now, Miss Stoner, we must leave you. If Dr. Roylott returned and saw us, our journey would be in vain.
Oh, save me, Mr. Holmes. He means to murder me.
We mean that he shall do nothing of the sort.
Goodbye, and be brave, Helen.
If you do what I've told you, you may rest assured that we shall soon drive away the dangers that threaten you.
Sherlock Holmes and I had no difficulty in engaging a sitting room at the Crown Inn. From our window we could command a view of the Avenue Gate and of the inhabited wing of Stoke Moran Manor House. At dusk we saw Dr. Grimsby Roylott drive past, his huge form looming up beside the little figure of the lad who drove him. The boy had some slight difficulty in undoing the heavy iron gates, and we heard the roar of the doctor's voice and saw the fury with which he shook his clenched fists at him.
Do you know, Watson, I really have some scruples as to taking you tonight. There is a distinct element of danger.
Can I be of assistance?
Your presence might be invaluable. I've always looked on you as a partner in the firm.
Then I shall certainly come.
It's very kind of you.
You speak of danger, Holmes. Now, you've evidently seen more in these rooms than was visible to me.
No, but I fancy that I may have deduced a little more. I imagine that you saw all that I did.
I saw nothing remarkable, save the bell rope, and what purpose that could answer is more than I can imagine.
You saw the ventilator, too.
Yeah, but I don't see what harm there could be in that. The opening's so small, a rat could hardly pass through.
Well, there is at least a curious coincidence of dates. A ventilator is made, a cord is hung, and a lady who sleeps in the bed below dies. Does that not strike you?
No, I can't see any connection, Holmes.
Did you observe anything very peculiar about the bed?
No.
It was clamped to the floor. Did you ever see a bed fastened like that before?
No, I can't say that I have.
The lady could not move her bed. It must always be in the same relative position to the ventilator and to the rope, or so we may call it, since it was clearly never meant for a bell pull.
Holmes, I seem to see dimly what you're hinting at. We're only just in time to prevent some subtle and horrible crime.
Subtle enough and horrible enough. When a doctor goes wrong, he is the first of criminals. He has nerve and he has knowledge. The poisoners, William Palmer and Edward Pritchard, were among the heads of their profession. This man strikes even deeper, but I think, Watson, that we shall be able to strike deeper still. We shall have horrors enough before the night is over.
Helen,
What is it?
are you in bed?
Yes,
Are you still of the same mind?
I am.
Two hours passed slowly away, and all was dark in the direction of Stoke Moran Manor House. Then suddenly, just at the stroke of 11, a single bright light shone out in front of us.
That's our signal, Watson. It comes from the middle window.
A moment later, we were out on the dark road, a chill wind blowing in our faces, and one yellow light twinkling in front of us through the gloom to guide us on our somber errand. There was little difficulty in entering the grounds, for unrepaired breaches gaped in the old park wall. Making our way among the trees, we crossed the lawn and were about to enter through the window.
My God! Holmes, did you see it?
That was the baboon. This is a nice household.
I had forgotten the strange pets which Dr. Roylott affected. I confess that I felt easier in my mind when, after following Holmes's example and slipping off my shoes, I found myself inside the bedroom. My companion noiselessly closed the shutters and moved the lamp onto the table.
Don't go to sleep, Watson. Your very life may depend upon it. Have your pistol ready in case we should need it.
Very well.
Now, I will sit on this side of the bed, and you in that chair.
Holmes had brought a long, thin cane, and this he placed upon the bed beside him. By it, he laid the box of matches and the stump of a candle.
We must sit without light. He would see it through the ventilator.
He turned down the lamp, and we were left in darkness. How shall I ever forget that dreadful vigil? I couldn't get a sound, not even the drawing of a breath, and yet I knew that my companion sat open-eyed within a few feet of me, in the same state of nervous tension in which I was myself. The shutters cut off the least ray of light, and we waited in absolute darkness. From outside came the occasional cry of a night bird, and once at our very window a long-drawn cat-like whine, which told us that the cheetah was at liberty. Suddenly, there was the momentary gleam of a light up in the direction of the ventilator, which vanished immediately, but was succeeded by a strong smell of burning oil and heated metal. Someone in the next room had lit a dark lantern. Then another sound became audible, like that of a small jet of steam escaping continually from a kettle. The instant we heard it, Holmes sprang from the bed and lashed furiously with his cane at the bell pull.
You see it, Watson, you see it!
Holmes! What does it mean?
It means it's all over. And perhaps after all, it's for the best. Take your pistol.
It was a singular sight which met our eyes as we entered Dr. Roylott's room. On the table stood a dark lantern, with the shutter half open, throwing a brilliant beam of light upon the iron safe, the door of which was ajar. Beside this table on the wooden chair sat Dr. Grimsby Roylott, clad in a long grey dressing gown. He made neither sound nor motion. Across his lap lay the short stalk with the long lash which we had noticed during the day. His chin was cocked upward, and his eyes were fixed in a dreadful, rigid stare at the corner of the ceiling. A peculiar yellow band with brownish speckles seemed to be bound tightly around his head.
It is the band. The speckled band.
It's moving. Holmes,
It's a swamp adder, Watson, the deadliest snake in India. Roylott died within seconds of being bitten. Let's thrust this creature back into its den, and then we can remove Miss Stoner to some place of shelter and let the county police know what's happened.
Holmes drew the dog whip swiftly from the dead man's lap, and throwing the noose round the reptile's neck, he drew it from its hoarded perch, and carrying it at arm's length, threw it into the iron safe, which he closed upon it. Such are the true facts of the death of Dr. Grimsby Roylott of Stoke Moran. It is not necessary that I should prolong my narrative by telling how we broke the sad news to the terrified girl, how we conveyed her by the morning train to the care of her good aunt at Harrow, or of how the slow process of official inquiry came to the conclusion that the doctor met his fate while playing with a dangerous pet.
I had come to an entirely erroneous conclusion, which shows, my dear Watson, how dangerous it always is to reason from insufficient data. The presence of the gypsies and the word band, which was used by the poor girl, was sufficient to put me upon an entirely wrong scent. I can only claim the merit that I instantly reconsidered my position when it became clear to me that whatever danger threatened an occupant of the room could not come either from the window or the door.
And so your attention was drawn to the ventilator once we saw Julia's room.
Not quite, Watson. I knew we should find a ventilator before we ever left for Stoke Moran.
Oh, my dear Holmes.
Oh, yes. You remember, in Helen Stoner's statement, she said that her sister could smell Dr. Roylett's cigar?
Yeah.
That suggested at once that there must be a communication between the two rooms. It must only be a small one, or it would have been remarked upon at the coroner's inquiry.
Thus you deduced a ventilator.
Now, what a fool must a builder be to open a ventilator into another room, when, with the same trouble, he might have communicated with the outside air. A curious fad indeed, Watson.
Ventilators which don't ventilate and bells that don't ring. Yes, I see.
The discovery that the bell rope was a dummy and that the bed was clamped to the floor instantly gave rise to the suspicion that the rope was there as a bridge for something passing through the hole and coming through the bed.
An accomplice who can enter a room with locked doors. An accomplice who can give a sure death which leaves no trace. An accomplice who can only be attracted back by music.
The idea of a snake instantly occurred to me, and when I coupled it with my knowledge that the doctor was furnished with a supply of creatures from India, I felt that I was probably on the right track. The use of a form of poison which couldn't possibly be discovered by any chemical test was just such a one as would occur to a clever and ruthless man who had had an Eastern training. The rapidity with which such a poison would take effect would also, from his point of view, be an advantage.
And it'd be a sharp-eyed coroner indeed who could distinguish the two little punctures which would show where the poison fangs had done their work.
Then I thought of the whistle. Of course, he must recall the snake before the morning light revealed it to the victim. He'd trained it, probably by the use of the milk which we saw, to return to him when summoned. He'd put it through this ventilator at the hour he thought best, with the certainty that it would crawl down the rope and land on the bed. It might or might not bite the occupant. Perhaps she might escape every night for a week. But sooner or later, she must fall a victim.
Horrible.
I'd come to these conclusions before ever I entered Roylett's room. An inspection of his chair showed me that he'd been in the habit of standing on it, which, of course, would be necessary in order that he should reach the ventilator. The sight of the safe, the saucer of milk, and the loop of whipcord were enough to finally dispel any doubts which may have remained.
And the metallic clang heard by Miss Stoner was caused by her stepfather hastily closing the door of his safe upon its terrible occupant.
Obviously. Having once made up my mind, you know the steps I took in order to put the matter to proof. When I heard the creature hiss, as I have no doubt that you did also, I instantly attacked it.
With the result of driving it back through the ventilator.
And also with the result of causing it to turn upon its master at the other side. Some of the blows of my cane came home and roused its snakish temper, so that it flew upon the first person it saw.
Yes. So, you are indirectly responsible for Dr. Grimsby Roylett's death, Holmes.
No doubt. And yet I cannot say it's likely to weigh very heavily upon my conscience. Violence does, in truth, recoil upon the violent, and the schemer falls into the...
The Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, featuring John Patrick Lowry as Holmes and Lawrence Albert as Dr. Watson. Tonight, The Noble Bachelor.
The full facts of the Lord St. Simon marriage, and what my friend Sherlock Holmes had in clearing the matter up, have never been revealed to the general public. It was a few weeks before my own marriage, during the days when I was still sharing rooms with Holmes in Baker Street, that he came home from an afternoon stroll to find a letter on the table waiting for him. I had remained indoors all day, for the weather had taken a sudden turn to rain, and the Jazeel bullet, which I had brought back in one of my limbs as a relic of my Afghan campaign, throbbed with dull persistence. So I lay listless, watching the huge crest and monogram upon the envelope, and wondering lazily who my friend's noble correspondent could be.
This appears to be a very fashionable epistle, Watson.
Yes, your morning letters are from a fishmonger and a tide waiter, if I remember correctly.
My correspondence has certainly the charm of variety, and the humbler are usually the more interesting. This looks like one of those unwelcome social summonses which calls upon a man either to be bored or to lie. Or it may prove to be something of interest after all.
Not social, then, Holmes?
No, distinctly professional.
And from a noble client?
One of the highest in England.
Oh, my dear fellow, I congratulate you.
I assure you, Watson, without affectation, that the status of my client is a matter of less moment to me than the interest of his case. It's just possible, however, that also may not be wanting in this new investigation. You've been reading the papers diligently of late, have you not?
I've had nothing else to do.
That's extremely fortunate.
Not for me.
Fortunate in that you'll be able to post me up. I read nothing except the criminal news and the agony column. The latter is always instructive. But if you followed recent events so closely, you must have read about Lord St. Simon and his wedding.
Yes, with deep interest.
That is well. This letter is from Lord St. Simon himself. Read it.
My dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, Lord Backwater tells me that I may place implicit reliance upon your judgment and discretion. I have determined, therefore, to call upon you and to consult you in reference to the very painful event which has occurred in connection with my wedding. Inspector Lestrade assures me that he sees no objection to your cooperation, and even thinks that it might be of some assistance. I will call at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Dated from Grosvenor Mansions, written with a quill pen, and the noble lord has had the misfortune to get a smear of ink upon the outer side of his right little finger.
He says 4 o'clock, Holmes. It's nearly that now.
And I just have time, with your assistance, to get clear upon the subject. If you'll kindly arrange the newspaper extracts in order of time, I'll see what the trusty old index has to say about our client. Lord Robert Walsingham de Vere St. Simon, second son of the Duke of Balmoral, born 1846.
41 years of age, then. Mature for marriage.
Under Secretary for the Colonies in the late administration, the Duke, his father, was at one time Secretary for Foreign Affairs. They inherit Plantagenet blood by direct descent, and Tudor on the distaff side. Nothing very instructive there. I must turn to you, Watson, for something more solid.
Well, I've had little difficulty in finding what I want. The facts are quite recent, and the matter struck me as being a little out of the common. I'd go so far as to call it remarkable.
Why didn't you mention them to me at the time?
You had an inquiry on hand, Holmes. I know how you dislike the intrusion of other matters.
Oh, you mean the little problem of the Grosvenor Square furniture van. That's quite cleared up now, though indeed it was obvious from the first. Pray, give me the results of your newspaper selections.
Here's the first notice I can find. It's in the personal columns of the Morning Post some weeks back. A marriage has been arranged between Lord Robert St. Simon, second son of the Duke of Balmoral, and Miss Hattie Doran, the only daughter of Aloysius Doran, Esquire, of San Francisco, California.
Terse and to the point.
There was a paragraph amplifying this in one of the Society pages the same week. Yes. Lord St. Simon has announced his approaching marriage with Miss Hattie Doran, the fascinating daughter of a California millionaire. Miss Doran, whose graceful figure and striking face attracted much attention at the Westbury House festivities, is an only child, and it is reported that her dowry will run to considerably over the 6 figures, with expectancies for the future. As it is an open secret that Lord St. Simon has no property of his own, it is obvious that the California heiress is not the only gainer by an alliance which will enable her to make the transition from a Republican lady to a British peeress.
Anything else?
Oh, plenty, Holmes. There's another note in the Morning Post to say that the marriage would be a quiet one, and that it would be at St. George's in Hanover Square, and that only half a dozen intimate friends would be invited.
Why such a small gathering, I wonder?
Then, 2 days later,
Wednesday last,
there's a curt announcement that the wedding had taken place, and that the honeymoon would be passed at Lord Backwater's place near Petersfield. Those are all the notices which appeared before the disappearance of the bride.
Before the what?
The vanishing of the lady.
When did she vanish?
At the wedding breakfast.
This is more interesting than it promised to be. Quite dramatic, in fact. Brides often vanish before the ceremony, and occasionally during the honeymoon, but I cannot call to mind anything quite so prompt as this. Pray, let me have the details.
I should warn you, they're very incomplete.
Perhaps we may make them less so, Watson.
Such as they are set forth in a single article of yesterday's morning paper. You see? Singular occurrence at a fashionable wedding.
Let me see that. The family of Lord Robert St. Simon has been thrown into the greatest consternation by the strange and painful episodes which have taken place in connection with his wedding. The ceremony, which was performed at St. George's, Hanover Square, was a very quiet one, and the whole party proceeded afterwards to the house of Mr. Aloysius Doran at Lancaster Gate, where breakfast had been prepared. It appears that some little trouble was caused by a woman who endeavoured to force her way into the house after the bridal party.
Miss Flora Miller, according to this morning's reports, a former danseuse at the Allegro and friend of the bridegroom.
The bride had not long sat down to breakfast with the rest when she complained of a sudden indisposition and retired to her room, her prolonged absence having caused some comment, and it was learned from her maid that she had only come up to her chamber for an instant, caught up an ulster and bonnet, and hurried down to the passage. One of the footmen declared that he had seen a lady leave the house thus apparelled and walk into Hyde Park in company with the young woman who had earlier caused such a disturbance. Very energetic inquiries are being made by Mr. Lestrade of Scotland Yard, which will probably result in a speedy clearing up of this very singular business.
Foul play, do you think? It occurs to me that since the marriage was actually performed, St. Simon will get to keep the dowry.
An exceedingly interesting case this appears to be. I wouldn't have missed it for worlds.
The clock makes it a few minutes after 4, Holmes.
Then I have no doubt that this will prove to be our noble client.
Yes, well, if you wouldn't mind helping me up.
Don't dream of going, Watson. I very much prefer having a witness, if only as a check to my own memory.
Our page boy threw open the door, and a gentleman entered with a pleasant, cultured face, high-nosed and pale, with something perhaps of petulance about the mouth, and with the steady, well-opened eye of a man whose pleasant lot it had ever been to command and to be obeyed.
Lord St. Simon, this is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson.
Doctor,
My lord?
Please, draw up a little to the fire, and we'll talk this matter over.
a most painful matter to me, Mr. Holmes, as you can readily imagine. I have been cut to the quick. I understand that you have already managed several delicate cases of this sort, though I presume they were hardly from the same class of society.
No, I am descending. Cigarette?
No, thank you. I beg your pardon.
My last client of the sort was a king.
Oh, really? I had no idea. Which king?
The King of Scandinavia.
And had he lost his wife?
You can understand that I extend to the affairs of my other clients the same secrecy I promise you in yours.
Of course. Very right, I'm sure. As to my own case, I'm ready to give you any information which may assist you in forming an opinion.
I have already learned all that is in the public prints. I presume that I may take that as correct?
As far as it goes.
I believe Mr. Holmes will require some supplementing before he can offer an opinion.
Quite so, Watson, and I think I may arrive at my facts most directly by questioning you.
Pray do so.
When did you first meet Miss Hattie Duran?
In San Francisco, a year ago.
You were travelling in the States,
Yes.
Did you become engaged then?
No.
but you were on friendly footing?
I was amused by her society, and she could see that I was amused.
Her father is very rich.
He's said to be the richest man on the Pacific Slope.
And how did he make his money?
In mining. He had nothing a few years ago. Then he struck gold, invested it, and came up by leaps and bounds.
Now, what is your own impression as to the young lady's, your wife's, character?
My wife was 20 before her father became a rich man. During that time, she ran free in a mining camp and wandered through the woods and mountains.
So her education came from nature rather than from the schoolmaster?
She is what we call in England a tomboy. A strong nature, wild and free, unfettered by any sort of traditions. She is
Impetuous?
volcanic, I was about to say. She is swift in making up her mind, and fearless in carrying out her resolutions. On the other hand, I would not have given her the name which I have the honour to bear, had I not thought her to be at bottom a noble woman. I believe she is capable of heroic self-sacrifice, and that anything dishonourable would be repugnant to her.
Have you her photograph?
Not a photograph, but an ivory miniature, in this locket.
A very lovely woman.
Miss Duran came to London then, and you renewed your acquaintance?
Her father brought her over for this last London season. I met her several times, became engaged to her, and now I have married her.
She brought, I understand, a considerable dowry.
A fair dowry, not more than is usual in my family.
Did you see Miss Duran on the day before the wedding?
I did, Doctor.
Was she in good spirits?
Never better. She kept talking of what we should do in our future lives.
And on the morning of the wedding?
She was as bright as possible, at least until after the ceremony.
Well, did you observe any change in her then?
Well, to tell the truth, I saw then the first signs I'd ever seen that her temper was just a little sharp. The incident, however, was too trivial to relate, and can have no possible bearing upon the case.
Pray let us have it, for all that.
She dropped her bouquet as we went towards the vestry, fell over into the front pew. There was a moment's delay, but the gentleman in the pew handed it up to her again, and it did not appear to be the worse for the fall. Yet in the carriage, on our way home, she seemed absurdly agitated.
What did she do on re-entering her father's house?
I saw her in conversation with her maid.
And who is her maid?
Alice is her name. She is an American and came from California with her.
A confidential servant?
A little too much so. It seemed to me that her mistress allowed her to take great liberties. Of course, in America they look upon these things in a different way.
How long did she speak to this Alice?
A few minutes. Lady St. Simon said something about jumping a claim. I have no idea what it meant. After that, she walked into the breakfast room.
On your arm?
Alone. She was very independent in little matters like that. Then, after we'd sat down for 10 minutes or so, she rose hurriedly, muttered some words of apology, and left the room. She never returned.
But this maid, Alice, deposes that she went to her room, covered her bride's dress with a long ulster, put on a bonnet, and went out.
And she was afterwards seen walking into Hyde Park with Flora Miller, a woman who'd already made a disturbance at Mr. Durand's house that morning.
I should like a few particulars as to this young lady, my lord, and your relations to her.
We have been on a friendly footing for some years.
How friendly?
Very friendly. I have not treated her ungenerously, and she had no just cause of complaint against me. But you know what women are, gentlemen. Flora was a dear little thing, but exceedingly hot-headed and devotedly attached to me. She wrote me dreadful letters when she heard I was about to be married.
Which was why you had the marriage celebrated so quietly. You feared there might be a scandal in the church.
She came to Mr. Durand's door just after we returned, and endeavoured to push her way in, uttering very abusive expressions towards my wife, and even threatening her. I had foreseen the possibility of something of the sort, and I had 2 police fellows there in private clothes, who soon pushed her out again.
Did your wife hear all this?
Thank goodness she did not.
And yet she was seen walking with this very woman afterwards.
That is what your friend Mr. Lestrade looks upon as so serious.
Yes, he no doubt believes Flora decoyed your wife out and laid some terrible trap for her.
It is a possible supposition.
No. No. Flora wouldn't hurt a fly.
Jealousy is a strange transformer of characters, my lord.
What is your own theory as to what took place?
Well, really, Mr. Holmes, I came to seek a theory, not to propound one. Since you ask me, however, I may say that it has occurred to me as possible that the excitement of this affair, the consciousness that she had made so immense a social stride, had the effect of causing some little nervous disturbance in my wife.
You believe she may have become suddenly deranged?
When I consider that she has turned her back, I will not say upon me, but upon so much that many have aspired to without success, I can hardly explain it in any other fashion.
Certainly, that is also a conceivable hypothesis. And now, Lord St. Simon, I think I have nearly all my data. May I ask whether you were seated at the breakfast table so that you could see out of the window?
We could see the other side of the road and the park, yes.
I do not think that I need to detain you longer. I shall communicate with you.
Very well. I wish you good fortune, Mr. Holmes, in solving this problem, but I am afraid that it will take wiser heads than yours or mine.
On the contrary, I have already solved it.
Really? Where, then, is my wife?
That is a detail which I shall speedily supply. Good day to you, my lord. It was very good of Lord St. Simon to honour my head by putting it on a level with his own, don't you think, Watson?
You didn't really mean it when you said you'd already solved the case.
Actually, I'd formed my conclusions before our client even came in the room.
Oh, my dear Holmes.
I have notes of several similar cases, though none, as I remarked before, which were quite as prompt. My whole examination served to turn the conjecture into a certainty.
But I heard everything you heard.
Without, however, the knowledge of pre-existing cases which serves me so well. There was a parallel incident in Aberdeen some years back, and something on very much the same lines at Munich the year after the Franco-Prussian War. In one of these cases... Come in, Lestrade!
Good afternoon, Mr. Holmes. Doctor?
Lestrade, there's an extra tumbler on the sideboard and there are cigars in the box.
I won't, if you don't mind.
May I take your bag?
I think I'll hold on to it for the time being.
You look dissatisfied, Inspector.
I feel dissatisfied. It is this infernal St. Simon marriage case. I can make neither head nor hair of the business.
You surprise me.
Who ever heard of such a mixed affair? Every clue seems to slip through my fingers. I've been at work upon it all day.
Yes, and very wet it seems to have made you, Inspector.
I've been dragging the Serpentine.
In heaven's name, what for?
In search of the body of Lady St. Simon, of course.
Have you dragged the basin of Trafalgar Square fountain?
Why, what do you mean?
Because you have just as good a chance of finding the lady in the one as in the other.
Oh, and I suppose you know all about it.
Well, I've only just heard the facts, but my mind is quite made up.
Then you think that the Serpentine plays no part in the matter?
I think it very unlikely, Lestrade.
Then perhaps you'll kindly explain how it is we found this in it. You were wondering what was in the bag. Well...
A wedding dress?
Shoes, veil, ring, and all. There's a little nut for you to crack, Mr. Holmes.
You dragged them from the Serpentine?
Well, not exactly. They were found floating near the margin by a park keeper.
They've been identified as her clothes, and it seemed to me that if the clothes were there, the body couldn't be far off.
By the same reasoning, Inspector, every man's body is to be found in the neighbourhood of his wardrobe. Pray, what did you hope to arrive at through this?
At some evidence implicating Flora Miller in the disappearance.
I'm afraid you will find it difficult.
Are you indeed now? And I am afraid that you are not very practical with your deductions and your inferences. You've made 2 blunders in as many minutes. This dress does implicate Miss Flora Miller.
How?
In the sleeve of the dress is a note. And here it is. Eh?
You will see me when all is ready. Come at once. F.H.M.
My theory all along has been that Lady St. Simon was decoyed away by Flora Miller, and that she, with confederates no doubt, was responsible for her disappearance. Here, signed with her initials, is the very note which was no doubt quietly slipped into her hand at the door which lured her within their reach.
Very good, Lestrade. Very fine indeed. Watson, may I see the note?
Of course.
October 4th, rooms 8 shillings, breakfast 2 shillings and 6pence, cocktail 1 shilling, lunch 2 shillings 6pence, glass of sherry 8pence.
You're looking at the wrong side. That's just a fragment of a hotel bill. I've wasted enough time here. I believe in hard work, not sitting by the fire spinning theories. Good day, Mr. Holmes, and we shall see which of us gets to the bottom of the matter first.
Just one hint to you before you go, Lestrade. I will tell you the true solution of the matter.
Go on, then. What is the true solution of the matter?
Lady St. Simon is a myth. There is not, and there never has been, any such person.
It was gone 5 o'clock when Sherlock Holmes left Baker Street, but I had no time to be lonely, for within an hour there arrived a confectioner's man with a very large flat box. This he unpacked, and presently, to my very great astonishment, a quite Epicurean little cold supper began to be laid out upon our humble lodging-house mahogany. There were a couple of braces of cold woodcock, a pheasant, a pâté de foie gras pie, with a group of ancient and cobwebby bottles. Having laid out all these luxuries, my visitor vanished away like the genie of the Arabian Nights. Just before 9 o'clock, Sherlock Holmes stepped briskly into the room.
You know, Watson, I'm beginning to think there's something in what the good inspector says about outdoor work. Ah, supper has been laid, then.
Expecting company?
I fancy we may have some people dropping in. In fact, I'm surprised that Lord St. Simon hasn't already... It seems I spoke too soon. Come in, my lord.
I received your message, Mr. Holmes, and I must confess that the contents startled me beyond measure. Have you good authority for what you say?
The best possible.
What will the Duke say when he hears that one of his family has been subjected to such humiliation?
It is the purest accident. I cannot allow that there is any humiliation.
You look on these things from another standpoint, sir.
I fail to see that anyone is to blame. I can hardly see how the lady could have acted otherwise, though her abrupt method of doing so is to be regretted. Having no mother, she had no one to advise her at such a crisis.
It was a slight, sir. A public slight. I make no allowance. I am firmly of the opinion that I have been shamefully used.
If I cannot persuade you to take a lenient view of the matter, I have brought an advocate here who may be more successful.
Oh.
Lord St. Simon, allow me to introduce you to Mr. and Mrs. Francis Hay Moulton. The lady, I think, you have already met.
I may not have met her yet, Holmes, but I believe I've seen her image in a locket. This is the missing bride, isn't it?
You're angry, Robert. Well, I guess you have every cause to be.
Pray make no apology for me.
I know I've treated you real bad, and that I should have spoken to you before I went. But I was kind of rattled, and from the time I saw Frank again, I didn't know what I was doing or saying. I wonder I didn't fall down and faint right there before the altar.
Perhaps, Mrs. Moulton, you would prefer it if we left the room while you discuss this matter?
If I might give an opinion, I reckon we've had just a little too much secrecy over this business already. For my part, I'd like all Europe and America to hear the rights of it.
Well, I for one should be very grateful of it.
It started back in '84, in McGuire Camp, near the Rockies, where Pa was working a claim. We were engaged to each other, Frank and I. But then one day, Pa struck a rich pocket and made a pile.
While I had a claim that petered out and came to nothing.
The richer Pa grew, the poorer was Frank. At last, Pa wouldn't hear of our engagement lasting any longer, and he took me away to Frisco.
I wouldn't throw up my hand, though. So I followed Hattie there and saw her without her pa knowing anything about it. It'd only have made him mad to know, so we just fixed it all up for ourselves.
Frank said he'd make his pile, too, and never come back to claim me until he did. I promised to wait for him to the end of time, and I pledged myself not to marry anyone else while he lived.
So then I says, well, why shouldn't we be married right away? And I won't claim to be your husband till I come back.
We talked it over, and he fixed it all up so nicely, with a clergyman all ready and waiting, and we just did it right there. Then Frank went off to seek his fortune, and I went back to Pa. The next I heard of Frank, he was in New Mexico. After that came a newspaper story about how a miners' camp had been attacked by Apache Indians, and there was my Frank's name among the killed. I was sick for months after.
You never doubted that your husband was truly dead?
No. Then Lord St. Simon came to Frisco, and we came to London, and a marriage was arranged, and Pa was very pleased. But I felt all the time that no man on this earth could ever take the place in my heart that had been given to my poor Frank. But if I married you, Robert, I'd have done my duty by you. We can't command our love, but we can our actions. I went to the altar with the intention to make you as good a wife as it is in me to be. But you can imagine what I felt when, just as I came to the altar rails...
You observed Mr. Francis Hamilton looking at you from the first pew.
I thought it was his ghost at first. But when I looked again, there he was still, with a kind of question in his eyes, as if to ask me whether I were glad or sorry to see him. Everything seemed to be turning around, and the words of the clergyman were just like a buzz of a bee in my ear. I didn't know what to do. Should I stop the service and make a scene in the church?
I could tell what Hattie was thinking, so I raised my finger to my lips to tell her to be still.
Then you scribbled a note on a piece of paper, and as she passed the pew, the young lady deliberately dropped her bouquet, and you slipped the note into her hand when returning her the flowers.
It was only a line, asking me to join him when he made the sign to me to do so. Of course, I never doubted for a moment that my first duty was now to him, and I determined to do just whatever he might direct. When I got back, I told my maid to get a few things packed and my ulster ready. I know I ought to have spoken to you, Robert, but it was dreadful hard before your mother and all those great people.
So instead you made up your mind to run away and not explain to anyone?
I was all for openness, sir. But Hattie was so ashamed of it all,
It was awful to me to think of all those lords and ladies sitting round that breakfast table, waiting for me to come back. I felt as if I should like to vanish away and never see any of them again. Just send a line to Pa, maybe, telling him that I was alive. Well, I hadn't been at that table 10 minutes before I saw Frank out of the window on the other side of the road.
I beckoned to her and then walked into the park.
And I slipped out, put on my things, and followed him. Some woman came a-talking to me. Seemed to me from the little I heard as if you have a little secret of your own, Robert. But I managed to get away from her and soon overtook Frank.
I took Hattie's wedding clothes and made a bundle of them and dropped them somewhere no one else could find them. Then, away we drove to the lodgings I'd taken in Gordon Square. So, now you know everything.
Not quite, Mr. Moulton. Where exactly were you all this time?
Well, sir, for many years I'd been a prisoner among the Apaches. When I finally escaped, I came to Frisco and found that Hattie had given me up for dead and gone to England. I followed her out here and saw the announcement of her second wedding in a newspaper.
Which would, of course, have given the name and the church, but not where the lady lived.
We were going to go on to Paris tomorrow, only Mr. Holmes came to Gordon Square and showed us very clearly and kindly that we should be putting ourselves in the wrong if we were so secret. Now, Robert, you've heard it all. I'm very sorry if I've given you pain, and I hope you don't think very meanly of me.
Excuse me, but it is not my custom to discuss my most intimate personal affairs in this public manner.
Then you won't forgive me?
If it would give you any pleasure.
I had hoped you would join us in a friendly supper.
I think that you ask a little too much, Mr. Holmes. I may be forced to acquiesce in these recent developments, but I can hardly be expected to make merry over them. I wish you all a very good night.
Case has been an interesting one. It serves to show very clearly how simple the explanation may be of an affair which at first sight seems to be almost inexplicable. Nothing could be more natural than the sequence of events as narrated by this lady, and nothing stranger than the result when viewed by Inspector Lestrade.
You weren't at fault yourself, then?
Of course not, Watson. From the first, two facts were very obvious to me. The one, that the lady had been quite willing to undergo the wedding ceremony. The other, that she'd repented of it within a few minutes of returning home.
Obviously, something occurred during the morning to cause her to change her mind. She couldn't have spoken to anyone when she was out. She'd been in the company of the bridegroom. But from what we heard, She'd returned from the wedding in a less cheerful frame of mind than she'd gone to it.
If she had seen someone at the wedding, it must have been an American, because she'd spent so short a time in this country.
Very well, she saw an American then.
Not just an American, Watson, but one who could possess considerable influence over her. Her young womanhood had, I knew, been spent in rough scenes and under strange conditions. When Lord St. Simon told us of a man in a pew, of the change in the bride's manner, of so transparent a device for obtaining a note as the dropping of a bouquet, of her resort to a confidential maid, and of a very significant allusion to claim-jumping, the whole situation became absolutely clear.
Ah, yes. I took it to be some sort of American slang.
In miners' parlance, it means taking possession of that which another person has prior claim to.
How in the world did you find them, then?
It might have been difficult, but friend Lestrade held information in his hands the value of which he did not know, since it told me that within a week he'd settled his bill at one of the most select London hotels.
And you knew that because of the prices. 8 shillings for a bed and 8 for a glass of sherry.
There aren't many hotels in London which charge at that rate. In the second one which I visited, I learned by an inspection of the book that Francis H. Moulton, an American gentleman, had left the day before.
Francis Moulton. The same initials as Flora Miller, hence Lestrade's confusion.
Moulton's letters were to be forwarded to 226 Gordon Square, so thither I travelled, and being fortunate enough to find the loving couple at home, I ventured to point out to them that it would be better in every way that they should make their position a little clearer both to the general public and to Lord St. Simon in particular.
But with no very good result, alas. His conduct was certainly not very gracious.
Ah, Watson, perhaps you wouldn't be very gracious either, if, after all the trouble of wooing and wedding, you found yourself deprived in an instant of wife and fortune. I think we may judge Lord St. Simon very mercifully, and thank our stars that we are never likely to find ourselves in the same position.
You have just heard The Noble Bachelor by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, dramatized by M.J. Eliot, starring John Patrick Lowry as Sherlock Holmes, Lawrence Albert as Dr. John H. Watson, and featuring Rick May as Inspector Lestrade. Also in the cast were Mark Anders as Lord St. Simon, Christine Moser as Hattie Doran, and Dennis Bateman as Frank Moulton. Incidental music was written and performed by Michael Lynch. Our violinist is Coral Sepulveda. With production by Jim French and direction by John Patrick Lowry, The Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes is a copyrighted feature of Jim French Productions and is produced by arrangement with the estate of Dame Jean Conan Doyle. This is Dennis Bateman speaking. Classic Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, featuring John Patrick Lowry as Holmes and Lawrence Albert as Dr. Watson. Tonight, The Crooked Man.
One summer night, a few months after my marriage, I was seated by my own hearth, smoking a last pipe and nodding over a novel, for my day's work had been an exhausting one. My wife had already gone upstairs, and the sound of the locking of the hall door some time before told me that the servants had also retired. I'd risen from my seat and was knocking out the ashes of my pipe when I heard the clang of the bell. It was 12:15. With a wry face, I went out into the hall and opened the door, and to my astonishment it was Sherlock Holmes who stood upon my step.
Ah, Watson, I hoped I might not be too late to catch you.
Oh, my dear fellow, pray, come in.
You look surprised, and no wonder. You still smoke the Arcadia mixture of your old bachelor days, then?
Well, yes,
There's no mistaking that fluffy ash upon your coat. It's easy to tell you've been accustomed to wearing a uniform, Watson. You'll never pass as a purebred civilian as long as you keep that habit of carrying your handkerchief in your sleeve. Could you put me up tonight?
Yes, with pleasure, Holmes.
You once told me that you had bachelor quarters for one, and your hat stand proclaims that you have no gentleman visitor at present.
Well, of course. I shall be delighted if you'll stay, as will Mary.
Thank you. I'll fill the vacant peg, then. I'm sorry to see you've had the British workman in the house. He's a token of evil. Not the drains, I hope.
No, the gas. How'd you know?
He's left 2 nail marks from his boot on your linoleum, just where the light strikes it.
Same Holmes as ever. Have you eaten?
I had some supper at Waterloo, thank you.
Well, I hope at least you'll join me in the smoking of a pipe or two.
I see you're professionally rather busy just now.
Yes, I've had a tiring day. It may seem very foolish in your eyes, Holmes, but once again I really don't know how you deduced it.
I have the advantage of knowing your habits, my dear Watson. When your round is a short one, you walk. When it's a long one, you use a hansom. As I perceive that your boots, although used, are by no means dirty, I cannot doubt that you are at present busy enough to justify the hansom.
Excellent.
Elementary.
Whenever, isn't it?
Well, at present, Watson, I hold in this hand several threads of one of the strangest cases which ever perplexed a man's brain.
Oh?
The problem presents features of interest, I may even say exceptional features of interest. If you could accompany me in that last step, you might be of considerable service to me.
My dear fellow, I should be delighted.
Could you go as far as Aldershot tomorrow?
I have no doubt Jackson would take my practice.
Very good. Then if you're not too sleepy, I'll give you a sketch of what has happened.
I was sleepy before you came, Holmes, but I'm quite wakeful now.
I'll compress the story as far as may be done without omitting anything vital to the case. It's conceivable that you may have read some account of the supposed murder of Colonel Berkeley of the Royal Mallows in Aldershot.
No, I've heard nothing of it.
Well, the facts are only 2 days old.
I do know the Royal Mallows, the old 117th, one of the most famous Irish regiments in the British Army. It did wonders both in the Crimea and the Mutiny.
And it was commanded, up to Monday night, by James Berkeley, a gallant veteran who started as a full private, was raised to commission rank for his bravery at the time of the Mutiny, and so lived to command the regiment in which he had once carried a musket. Colonel Berkeley married at the time when he was a sergeant, and his wife, whose maiden name was Miss Nancy Devoy, was the daughter of a former colour sergeant in the same corps.
I imagine there must have been some little social friction for the couple.
So I understand. But Major Murphy, to whom I owe most of my facts, assures me that they quickly adapted themselves, and tells me that Mrs. Berkeley was a woman of
great beauty. Even now, when she's been married for upward of 30 years, she's still of a striking and queenly appearance.
And the Colonel's family life?
A uniformly happy one, Mr. Holmes. Never a misunderstanding between the pair, on the whole.
On the whole, Major?
It seemed to me that Colonel Berkeley's devotion was greater than his wife's. He always became acutely uneasy if he were absent from her for a day. She, on the other hand, though devoted and faithful, was less obtrusively affectionate.
So there was nothing in their mutual relations to suggest tragedy?
The Colonel had some singular traits in his character. He was a dashing, jovial old soldier in his usual mood, but there were occasions when a singular sort of depression came upon him. It was as if the smile had been struck from his mouth by some invisible hand. That and a certain tinge of superstition were the only unusual traits in his character.
Superstition?
Well, it's rather puerile, really, but he disliked being left alone, especially after dark. At those times he seemed to show himself capable of considerable violence and vindictiveness.
And did this side of his nature ever turn toward his wife?
Never, sir.
You still haven't told me what happened, Holmes. All I know is that Colonel Berkeley died, but you've yet to explain how.
The 1st Battalion of the Royal Mallows has been stationed at Aldershot for some years. The Colonel occupied a villa about half a mile from the North Camp. The house stands in its own grounds, but the west side of it isn't more than 30 yards from the high road. The Berkeleys had no children, nor was it usual for them to have resident visitors. Now, for the events between 9 and 10 on the evening of last Monday. Mrs. Berkeley had interested herself very much in the establishment of the Guild of St. George, which supplied the poor with cast-off clothing. A meeting of the Guild had been held that evening at 8, and when leaving the house she was heard to make some remark to her husband to assure him she'd be back before very long.
She went alone?
No, she called for Miss Morrison, a young lady who lives in the next villa. The meeting lasted 40 minutes, and at 9:15 Mrs. Berkeley returned home, having left Miss Morrison at her door as she passed. Mrs. Berkeley went upon her return into the morning-room. Hearing that his wife had returned, the Colonel joined her.
There are witnesses to this, I suppose?
Jane Stewart, the housemaid, who was instructed to bring Mrs. Berkeley a cup of tea, and Huggins, the coachman, who saw the Colonel across the hall and enter the morning-room. The tea was brought up at the end of 10 minutes, but as she approached the door, the maid was surprised to hear the voices of her master and mistress in furious altercation. She turned the handle, only to find that the door was locked upon the inside.
Undoubtedly she didn't keep that news to herself.
She informed the cook and the coachman, who came into the hall to listen to the raging dispute.
And the voices were definitely those of the Colonel and his wife.
They all agreed that theirs were the only two to be heard. But the conversation ended in a sudden dreadful cry in the man's voice, a crash, and a piercing scream from the woman. Convinced that some tragedy had occurred, the coachman ran round to the lawn upon which the long French windows open. One side of the window was open.
Was that usual?
In the summer-time, yes. He found his mistress stretched insensible upon a couch, while, with his feet tilted over the side of an armchair, and his head upon the ground near the corner of the fender, lay the unfortunate soldier, stone dead in a pool of his own blood. Mrs. Barclay is now suspected of her husband's murder.
Naturally, sir. My first thought was to open the door.
But the door was locked?
Yes, Doctor. There was no trace of the key anywhere.
The key was nowhere in the room.
No, sir.
And Mrs. Barclay, she was quite insensible?
She was.
And the key wasn't upon her person?
No, sir. The door eventually had to be opened by a locksmith from Aldershot.
Continue, Huggins.
I moved my master's body onto the sofa. I'll never forget his face. It was the most dreadful expression of fear and horror. I am certain he must have foreseen his fate, Mr. Holmes. A doctor was sent for, and he found a jagged cut 2 inches long at the back part of his head.
And was there any indication of what instrument might have caused that?
Oh, there certainly was, sir. Lying on the floor, close to the body, there was a club, hard carved wood with a bone handle.
How singular.
Not as much as you'd think, Doctor. The Colonel had a varied collection of weapons brought from the different countries in which he'd fought.
And this club was among his trophies?
I admit I'd never seen it before, sir, but it just may have been overlooked.
I understand you were the first to hear the quarrel, Jane.
Yes, sir. On that first occasion, the voices of my master and mistress were sunk so low I could hardly hear anything.
Please try to remember.
I remember Mrs. Barclay called her husband a coward. And she said the name David.
David? But the Colonel's name was James.
It was quite clear, sir.
Mrs. Barclay, I take it, is still incapable of providing an explanation.
Impossible, Mr. Holmes. She is still suffering from an acute attack of brain fever.
Now, the morning room faces the road. The lawn is 30 yards across and is divided from the highway by a low wall with an iron rail above it. Blinds weren't down that night.
I'm sorry to say it, Holmes, but all that we've heard so far fits in with the police theory that the Colonel's wife made a murderous attack upon him. If he could have seen her with that club in her hand, it might explain the facial contortion.
Save for the fact that the wound was on the back of his head, Watson.
Not necessarily. He might have turned to avoid the blow.
We must try to separate those facts which are crucial from those which are merely incidental.
Which is why you're now attempting to find any traces of a third person.
You know my methods, old chap, and I found those traces. Someone crossed the lawn coming from the road. There are several clear impressions of his footmarks. One in the roadway over there, one at the point where he climbed the low wall, and 2 on the lawn, you see?
Well, I see something, Holmes. Something that doesn't look much like a footprint.
Because his toe marks are much deeper than his heels. He was running. And look, 2 very faint marks upon the stained boards near the French window.
Which was open that night. This is where he entered.
Let us continue our examination indoors, Watson.
Well, do you see any other traces?
I do, but very different ones from those I'd expected.
But there was another man in the room.
There was. But it's not the man who surprises me. It's his companion.
His companion?
Look down here, Watson. What do you make of that?
Well, marks of some small animal. 5 well-marked footpads, an indication of long nails. Well, the whole print's nearly as large as a dessert spoon.
Well?
It's a dog, Holmes.
Did you ever hear of a dog running up a curtain? I found distinct traces that this creature had done so.
A monkey?
It's not the print of a monkey.
Well then, what is it?
Neither dog, nor cat, nor monkey, nor any creature I'm familiar with. There are 4 prints here where the beast's been standing motionless. It's no less than 15 inches from 4 foot behind. Add to that the length of neck and head.
A creature not much less than 2 feet long. Probably more if there's a tail.
But observe these other tracks. The animal's been moving. They have the length of the stride.
About 3 inches.
We have an indication, you see, of a long body with very short legs attached to it. It hasn't been considerate enough to leave any hair behind. We know its general shape, and that it's carnivorous.
Well, how do you deduce that?
Because it ran up the curtain, caused this canary's cage. Its aim seems to have been to get at the bird.
Holmes, what was this beast? And what had it to do with the crime?
If I could give it a name, it might go a long way toward solving the case. But we've learned a good deal.
Really? I'd say your discovery seemed to have left the business more obscure than it was before.
The affair is certainly much deeper than I at first conjectured. We must approach the case from another aspect.
What about this Miss Morrison, who went out that evening with Mrs. Barclay to the Watt Street mission? You don't suppose there might have been some understanding between the Colonel and this lady?
A provocative conjecture, Watson.
Well, she might have confessed to the wife that night. That'd account for the angry return, wouldn't it?
Nor would it be entirely incompatible with most of the words overheard by the housemaid.
Well, there you are, then.
But there's also the reference to David, and the known affection of the Colonel for his wife to weigh against it, to say nothing of the tragic intrusion of this other man.
Which might be entirely disconnected with the murder.
Improbable, but not impossible. I am, in any event, in agreement with you, Watson, that Miss Morrison holds the clue as to what it was which turned Mrs. Barclay to hatred of her husband. I understand from the police that you deny any knowledge of what it was which caused the ill humour in which your companion returned home?
I know nothing of any ill humour, gentlemen.
I guess I'll have this one, Mum.
Oh, no, my dear sir. I think this coat will keep you far warmer.
Oh.
Take it.
Oh, thank you, Mum.
Forgive me, Miss Morrison, but it's quite certain that when she left her home at 7:30, Nancy Barclay was on good terms with her husband. It's equally certain that violent recriminations broke out immediately upon her return. Now, something occurred between 7:30 and 9 o'clock which completely altered her feelings towards him.
You were with her during the whole of that hour and a half. It's absolutely certain, therefore, that you must know something of the matter.
I promised my friend that I would say nothing of the matter, Mr. Holmes, and a promise is a promise.
But when so serious a charge is laid against her, and when her own mouth is closed by illness, surely you're absolved from that promise.
Very well. We were returning home from the mission about 9:15 o'clock. On our way, we passed through Hudson Street, and as we approached the street lamp, I saw a man coming towards us with his back very bent and a box slung over his shoulder. He appeared to be deformed. He carried his head low and walked with his knees bent. When he raised his face to look at us, he screamed out in a dreadful voice.
He recognized Nancy Barclay.
She turned as white as death and would have fallen down had the dreadful-looking creature not caught hold of her. I was going to call for the police, but she, to my surprise, spoke quite civilly to the fellow.
What did they say to one another?
I don't know.
Miss Morrison...
No, I swear it. Nancy asked me to walk on a little way. She tried to speak boldly, but she was deadly pale and could hardly get her words out for the trembling of her lips. I did as she asked me, and they talked together for a few minutes. Then she came down the street with her eyes blazing, and I saw the crippled wretch standing by the lamppost, shaking his clenched fists in the air as if he were mad with rage.
And you never spoke of the matter for the rest of the journey home?
She wouldn't say a word until we were at my door, when she took me by the hand and begged me to tell no one what happened. Henry is an old acquaintance of mine who's come down in the world, she said.
Henry?
I've told you the whole truth, gentlemen. And if I withheld it from the police, it's because I didn't realize then the danger in which my dear friend stood.
We're within sight of a solution, Watson.
The next step, obviously, is to find the man Miss Morrison says produced such a remarkable impression upon Mrs. Barclay.
Miss Morrison. Her statement was like a light on a dark night.
If he's still an Aldershot, it shouldn't be a very difficult matter. There aren't such a very great number of civilians, and a deformed man is sure to have attracted attention.
And that is what we must do with the rest of our day. We only lack the 1 or 2 facts which are needful to complete my theory. But already I have a shadowy presentiment of the whole sequence of events. The man's name is Henry Wood, and he lives in lodgings in this same street in which the ladies met him.
Well, he can't have been here very long. They would have seen him before now.
5 days only. In the character of a registration agent, I had a most interesting gossip with his landlady. In his deposit, he'd given her what looked like a bad florin. She had no use for it, so she gave it to me. I thought you might be able to identify it, Watson.
Yes, of course. It's an Indian rupee.
This man Wood is by trade a conjurer and performer, going round the canteens after nightfall and giving a little entertainment at each. He is the only person in this world who can tell us exactly what happened in the Barclays' morning room.
And you intend to ask him?
In the presence of a witness. If he can clear the matter up, well and good. If he refuses, we have no alternative but to apply for a warrant. This is his room.
What do you want?
My name is Holmes, Mr. Wood. I've come on important business.
It's not locked.
Good Lord.
We're here over this little matter of Colonel Barclay's death.
What should I know about that?
That is what I want to ascertain. You know, I suppose, that unless the matter is cleared up, Mrs. Barclay will in all probability be tried for murder.
Nancy, I don't know who you are, nor how you come to know what you do know. But will you swear that what you tell me is true?
They're only waiting for her to come to her senses to arrest her, Mr. Wood.
My God. Then you're not the police?
No.
What business is it of yours, then?
It's every man's business to see justice done, Mr. Wood.
You can take my word that she's innocent.
Meaning you are guilty?
I am not.
Then who killed Colonel James Barclay?
It was a just providence that killed him. But if I had knocked his brains out, as it was in my art to do, he would have had no more than his due from my hands, if his own guilty conscience hadn't struck him down. It's likely enough that I might have had his blood upon my soul.
Perhaps it would be best if you tell us your story.
I don't know why I shouldn't. There's no cause for me to be ashamed of it. You see me now with my back like a camel, and my ribs all awry. But there was a time when Corporal Henry Wood was the smartest man in the 117th foot. We were in India, at a place called Bertie. Barclay was sergeant in the same company as myself. The belle of the regiment and the finest girl that ever had the breath of life between her lips was the daughter of the colour sergeant.
Nancy Devoy.
There were two men that loved her, and one that she loved. And you'll smile when you look at this poor thing huddled before the fire and hear me say that it was for my good looks that she loved me. I had her heart. Her father was set upon her marrying Barclay. I was a harum-scarum, reckless lad, and he had had an education and was already marked for the sword belt. But the girl held true to me, and it seemed that I would have had her when all hell broke loose in the country.
You mean mutiny?
Of course I mean the mutiny. We were shut up in Bertie, the regiment of us, with half a battery of artillery, a company of Sikhs, and a lot of civilians and womenfolk. There were 10,000 rebels round us, and they were as keen as a set of terriers round a rat cage. About the second week, our water gave out.
Well, couldn't you have communicated with General Neil's column?
That was our only chance. We couldn't fight our way out with all the women and children, so I volunteered to go out and warn Neil of our danger. I talked it over with Barclay, who is supposed to know the ground better than any other man, and who drew up a route by which I might get through the rebel lines. At 10 o'clock the same night, I started off upon my journey. There were 1,000 lives to save, but it was of only one that I was thinking when I dropped over the wall that night. My way ran down a dried-up watercourse, which we hoped would screen me from the enemy's sentries. And as I crept around the corner of it, I walked right into 6 of them, crouching in the dark, waiting for me.
More than a coincidence, surely. Judging by their advantageous position, I should say that you were betrayed into the hands of the enemy.
By the very man who arranged the way you were to take.
You know now what James Barclay was capable of. Bertie was relieved by Neil next day, but the rebels took me away with them in their retreat. I was tortured and tried to get away, and was captured and tortured again. You can see for yourselves the state in which I was left. Some of them that fled into Nepal took me with them. The hill folk up there murdered the rebels who had me, and I became their slave for a time until I escaped. At last I came back to the Punjab, where I lived mostly among the natives and picked up a living by the conjuring tricks I'd learned.
Why not return to England at the first opportunity? Why not make yourself known to your old comrades?
What use was it for me, a wretched cripple, to go back to England? Even my wish for revenge wouldn't make me do that. I'd rather that Nancy and my old pals should think of Harry Wood as having died with a straight back than see him living and crawling with a stick like a chimpanzee. They never doubted I was dead, and I meant that they never should.
Were you aware, then, that your former sweetheart and Berkeley had married?
I'd heard it, and that Berkeley was rising rapidly in the regiment. But even that didn't make me speak. But when one gets old, one has a longing for home. For years I'd been dreaming of the bright green fields of England, and at last I determined to see them before I died. I saved enough to bring me across, and then here I came.
Your narrative is most interesting, Mr. Wood. I've already heard of your meeting with Mrs. Berkeley and your mutual recognition. You, then, as I understand, followed her home and saw through the window an altercation between the lady and her husband. Your own feelings overcame you, and you ran across the lawn and broke in upon them.
I did, sir, and at the sight of me he looked as I've never seen a man look before. And over he went with his head on the fender, but I read death on his face before he fell. The bare sight of me was like a bullet through his guilty heart.
And then?
Then Nancy fainted, and I caught up the key of the door from her hand, intending to unlock it and get help. But as I was doing it, it seemed to me better to leave it alone and get away, for my secret would be out if I were taken. In my haste, I thrust the key into my pocket and dropped my stick while I was chasing Teddy, who'd run up the curtain.
Teddy?
In here.
A mongoose?
Some call them that. Snake catcher is what I call him. Teddy's amazing quick on cobras. I have one without the fangs, and Teddy catches it every night to please the folk in the canteen. Well, after I slipped him back into his box, I was off as fast as I could run, only narrowly avoiding the coachman. Was there any other point, sir?
We may have to apply to you again if Mrs. Berkeley should prove to be in serious trouble.
Of course. I'd come forward.
If not, there's no object in raking up this scandal against a dead man.
Foully as he's acted.
Has anything of note happened since yesterday, Major?
I take it you haven't heard, then?
Heard what?
All this fuss has come to nothing.
How so?
The inquest is just over. The medical evidence shows conclusively that Colonel Berkeley's death was due to apoplexy.
Well, well.
So, your services won't be required anymore, I'm afraid, Mr. Holmes. It was quite a simple case, after all.
Remarkably superficial, I should say.
Yes, Watson, I believe that's what you have just said. Come along, I don't think we shall be wanted in Aldershot anymore. There can be no question that from the first, the most distinctive and suggestive point in the case was the singular disappearance